Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our board meeting on November the 13th, 2024. I would like to acknowledge that we are privileged to meet on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Squamish and the St'át'imc nations. Now, we do have a few presentations today, but before it's your turn, we have a few things that we have to do. So just be patient, and we're going to have your presentation shortly. We're really looking forward to that. So for those of you who are joining us online, we have 18 people in our audience in attendance today, and we're really looking forward to what is to come. So item number 1 is our agenda recommendation. Is there someone ready to make that recommendation?
That the agenda of this meeting be approved.
Thank you very much, Melissa. And a seconder? Thank you, April. And some minutes.
That the minutes of the board meeting held on October 9th, 2024 be adopted.
Thank you. And a seconder for that? Thank you, April. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And I should also say, I forgot to see if we were all in favor of our agenda. Is there anyone opposed to the agenda? I did not think so. Thank you so much. We'll just back up a little on that. So our agenda is also passed. We have a second set of minutes that need to be adopted.
That the summary minutes of the in-camera board meeting held on October 9th, 2024 be adopted.
Thank you again, Melissa, and thank you, April. All in favor? Thank you. And any opposed? All right, seeing none, that's also carried. Okay, that brings us to item number 3 on our agenda, which is our announcements, and we'll begin with our chairperson's announcements. I just like to say that Rebecca Barley, who is our regular chairperson, is away today, and so I'll be sitting in her place, and I have nothing to share at this moment. So actually, maybe I do. I was going to share them as trustee remarks, but I will share them as the chairperson's remarks. I'll just say that I was really pleased to have an opportunity to attend a lovely Remembrance Day ceremony at Myrtle Phillips School, and the students did the presentation from start to finish. It was fantastic, and I am always really, really impressed with how well all of the students speak in public. They have strong voices, they use the mic well, they are very confident, and I'm really proud of everyone I saw and how well they did with their presentation. It was really fantastic and showed lots of reverence for the event. I also attended 2 school learning plan meetings this month, one at Don Ross Middle School and another at Howe Sound Secondary. And I was quite pleased to have the opportunity to see the changes and the progress that are being made at both of those schools. So I think that would be all I have to share at this moment, and I'll turn it to any of the trustees now for trustee remarks. Go ahead, Melissa.
Hi, I would just like to say that I was able to go to the provincial council in October, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really great opportunity to see work in action. We heard a lot about climate change impacts and what we're doing well and what we can work towards for your future. And then I also went to 2 school learning plans as well. Blackwater, which is always so exciting to go to. I don't know if you guys have heard of Blackwater, but it's a really tiny school past Pemberton, and it's just such a sweet little school. It's really great to always see the changes that happen there. And then I also attended Signal Hill, which is one of my favorites as my children go there. So I'm a bit biased. They're all fantastic schools. Yeah, so that's me.
Great, thank you so much. Celeste, I see you have your hand up, and for those of you in the audience, you can see Celeste on the screen behind you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to check. I would like to report out on DPAC, and I can't recall if we do it under trustee remarks or another area.
Why don't you go ahead and do it here, Celeste?
Okay, I will then. So thank you. DPAC met on October 21st, and I just want to say, first of all, that we have a really thoughtful group of parents serving on DPAC. I'm so very thankful for the work that they're doing. and for the time that they're giving to the work. It's a lot. And on behalf of the district, attending the 6 meetings a year, thank you for the time that you're giving. So there was good representation from probably about half of the schools. One thing to note is that at this time, there's no DPAC rep for Blackwater Creek Elementary, Statmas, or Whistler Secondary. And so just to say out loud, this is really important work. I hope that anybody who's listening that may have children at any of those schools that feels compelled to get involved in the advocacy work that is done at the DPAC level, to please reach out to your PAC. There's opportunities to get involved. It's only 6 meetings a year, and some of them are virtual, so you don't have to travel for them. And so I just think it's a great opportunity. If you didn't know that there were vacancies on those PACs for those particular positions. So I'll just go through very quickly what was discussed at the meeting. So myself, Chris, and Paul attended. And, I just gave a brief overview of the work that the board is doing. And Ava.
We have avocado.
Mommy's in a meeting. I'm so sorry. We talked about new policies that were brought forward. So this is an area where information is exchanged between the district and DPAC, and that information then goes back to the various PACs. It also works in the reverse order. So PACs can bring issues forward to the district through DPAC. So again, a great place to do advocacy. We talked about the district partner group meeting and survey that's out now for anybody that wants to complete the survey on our budget. Chris always gives a good report, and Paul as well. Just for this particular month, it was on enrollment. So it gives a nice presentation to DPAC. And a review of programs that are offered within the district, staffing, what to expect, that kind of thing. Colleen Hanna attended this meeting and gave, who's our Director of Instruction for Indigenous Education. She gave a presentation on reconciliation through Indigenous Ed. And it was really wonderful to have her at that meeting. And then the rest of the meeting was business for DPAC, the chair of DPAC reporting out, and nothing else that I'm going to go into in detail here. The one thing that I'd wondered, Chris, and perhaps you can answer this for me, is where the minutes are posted. Are the minutes of the DPAC meeting public, or do they stay closed?
So DPAC is a separate entity from the board. It is not a committee of the board. They have their own constitution. There's a landing page on our website, though, where we do provide the space for DPAC to post minutes. So that's up to the secretary, treasurer, and the exec in terms of the minutes that they post or any other information that they share out. Oftentimes, they also share the information through their PACs so that we can share in that way.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that, Chris. And maybe that's something we can bring up at the December DPAC meeting just to make sure that they're aware. Stephanie, who is responsible for taking the minutes, did an excellent job. The minutes of the last meeting are really, really well organized. So anyway, we'll be attending the next one in December. It's always a pleasure to interface with the parents that are giving their time. And yeah, that's all I have to say on DPAC today. Oh, and the other thing I will say very briefly is that Cynthia and I did attend school learning plans at John Ross Middle School and Howe Sound Secondary, and what a privilege to be able to go into the middle school and high school in Squamish. Again, I've been many times to both of those schools, and very thankful for the work that's being done there.
Thank you, Celeste. Are there any other trustee remarks at this time? All right, seeing none, that brings us to item C, which are the superintendent remarks. So I'll turn that over to our superintendent.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome again to our guests. Looking forward to your presentation. I'm sorry you're going to have to listen to me for a little bit. I'm going to touch on a few things that were already spoken about as superintendent support that I do. And one of the most important things, of course, is to just acknowledge and recognize the time that was taken across the district to reflect on the sacrifices and contributions of those who served our country. On November 8th, we observed Indigenous Veterans Day, a time to honor the extraordinary bravery and sacrifices of Indigenous soldiers who served with distinction in Canada's armed forces. And of course, we pay homage as well to observe and recognize the sacrifices of all veterans. And while November 11th was the official Remembrance Day, all of our schools did that observance on Friday. I will just share that again, I had the honor of being invited to the Housetown Secondary Assembly. The assembly each year, the secondary and what other schools as well, is student led. Oh, okay. Hopefully that's clear. So the student, yes, okay, great. So the student led assembly at House Sound was handled with great grace. They did a lovely job educating students again about not just Indigenous Veterans Day, but again paying homage to all those who fought for our country. So it was really lovely to be a part of that. I also want to acknowledge the profound loss felt across our country when on November 4th, we honored the passing of Murray Sinclair, whose Anishinaabe name is Mazina Quat, which means the one who speaks of pictures in the sky. And as many folks know, Mr. Sinclair, the Right Honorable, was a champion for justice, equity, and the rights of Indigenous people. His extraordinary leadership as chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission shaped a path toward healing and understanding in Canada. And in education, the TRC, that's the acronym for the commission, Calls to Action, which was guided by Sinclair's vision, has really challenged school districts to continue to incorporate Indigenous perspectives, acknowledge historical injustices, and commit to equitable practices. And I know I speak on behalf of all staff and I'm sure the board too, when I share that his enduring legacy will continue to influence BC and Canada's education systems for the better, forever impacting on our journey towards reconciliation. So how wonderful that we have a student presentation based on that topic. I do have some things to share about some great work at Statness School, but I'm thinking I'm going to actually save that. I'll let the principal, Corey, know that I'll save that for the next board meeting so that we can get on to the stars of our evening tonight, the students from Valley Cliff in front of us. Thank you.
Our last announcement comes from our secretary treasurer, and then it will be your turn. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for your patience, everybody. Just wanted to let everybody know our budget survey is open right now to the public. If you haven't received an email, excuse me about this, it's on our website. So please check it out, have your say in our budget process. Can be found on our district website on the main page, and if you just scroll down a little bit, it's about halfway down. Excuse me, if there's any questions or clarification from the public, we can answer them at the end of this board meeting, and they should be related to agenda items. Or they can email to board@st48.bc.ca. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. All right, now it is time for you, our guests. We're ready for your presentation, so I'll let you take over and we're moving to thank you.
Thank you. While there are 5 of us here tonight, what we need to know is that this is learning that represents 26 people in total. So our whole class and Mr. Prescott and ourselves, and this is actually an inquiry that we started last April. And it took us a long time and we were thoughtful in it. And what we did was a number of years ago, under the direction of Susan Leslie, each school created a Truth and Reconciliation journey blanket. And ours has stood in the hall. None of the children who were involved in that process are still in our building. And so the inquiry that our grade 3-4 class undertook was, what is this blanket? And this is what it looked like. What is the story that this blanket tells. We learned about how one thing represents something, and we brainstormed what we thought it might represent, and if that was still in keeping with what we had been learning and what we knew. And we want to give some credit to Maureen Baker, who works in our school, because as Maureen learns, we learn. And she does a remarkable job helping ensure that the cultural teachings are accessible in such a fun game-like way. And we look forward to her work in our class. So that was the inquiry. What is the story this is telling us? And does this match or align with what we now know? And so first up, Kira is going to come and stand here beside me. And Kira is going to speak to what we discovered about this quilt, the first blanket. Come ahead, Kira. Nice and slow.
When we explored the blanket, we thought that the large tree was there to represent how important cedar is to the Squamish people. The canoe represented how the people traveled. The animal designs on the canoe show animals from Squamish Nation land. Art Harry C. Appleton designed the animals you see on the canoe. We would like to thank Art for creating this amazing design. The flag shows different animals that live in each province in art form. There were poppies with a button in the middle on the outside edge. We made the decision to remove some of the pieces, and this is why. We removed the flag for two reasons. It represented the government, and this is a problem because they were responsible for residential schooling. We know that this flag can be hurtful to some Indigenous people. The second reason is that the animals are all done in the same art style, and we know that different peoples in Canada have different art forms. We also removed the poppies because they felt like they were decoration without meaning, and there was just too much. We will now share the updated blanket and explain the changes we made.
So now, if Bonnie and Mr. Jacob could come, and this is our version 2 of our school's Truth and Reconciliation blanket. And they're gonna, I think, go over that way. And then we'll get you to turn this way for everybody to see, and then also for the audience. And then sort of slide out this way, Mr. Jacob. And then back again. Our friend Cooper,
And to that, can I ask one more time for folks? I want to make sure that folks online and for all time, we've got it. Yeah, a little more. And how is it now? Good. It's a strange little owl. There we go. And then up. Teasing. I was teasing. I know. Thank you so much.
so our friend Cooper is on vacation and couldn't be here tonight. So I'm Cooper. Cooper would like us to know that we added a moon, and you will notice that it is both a full moon and the crescent moon made out of buttons. And the reason this moon was added is to represent light and the seasons, which are very important. The seasons represent different times of the year that travel was taken. The moon represents the importance of different ceremonies and traditions during those seasons, which were lost during residential schooling. The buttons were used because they are a traditional decoration used on regalia, and the buttons are white, and they're actually made of shells because that's how they were very first made, was of shiny shells. The moon also represents the legends that were lost, legends of the sky, the earth, and the ocean. And that's why we have the moon added to our quilt. And now I would like to introduce Lydia.
We left the canoe because of how important it is. We learned that canoes are carved out of cedar trees and they were gigantic. We learned that the designs on the side of the canoe represent family, nation, or place. Inside the canoe, we added a paddle. The big paddle is standing up because we learned when the canoe came to land, the paddle was raised to show respect. When kids were sent to residential schools, they lost their connection with their family. So we added people to represent the importance of family and community. In the canoe, there is a person with gray hair, one with black hair, and a child. We did this to represent the importance of learning from your elders, all the traditional ways and language. They are dressed in traditional ceremonial clothing which was taken away from them at schools. The Squamish Nation people wear a headband or a hat for protection when going to ceremonies. Truth and Reconciliation is about learning from these losses and making sure they don't happen again. I would like to introduce Chelsea. In the canoe, the people all have long hair. This is important for boys and girls. When they went to schools, they were forced to cut their hair and keep it short. This was sad and wrong. This wouldn't feel the same. I have never cut my hair. Not to the top. We added more trees to represent the importance of land. The Squamish Nation lost many things related to land. They lost the right to fish, hunt, gather plants, and live on their traditional land. Now Lola will talk about the paddles that have some names.
So this is the part that Lola
We used a paddle shape to show they lived by the sea, and they used the paddles on their clothes to dance at ceremonies. We chose to add more paddles because many kids in our school did not have their name on the paddle. When kids went to residential school, they got their name taken away and got English names. We know how special names are. My name is who I am. Our names on the paddles show that learning. Thank you.
So what we have represented on the paddles now is every child and adult who works in our building, and they're all represented in this. This group presented this blanket and their inquiry at our Truth and Reconciliation ceremony this year, and have gifted the blanket back to the school where it will be displayed along with the picture of the original, because I think it's so important that we not lose our starting point, but that instead, as we do each cycle of learning, we build onto it. We also have hidden here a red dress. Yeah. We have an orange t-shirt that has gotten lost between my house and this building. And we are adding a feather. When we first started doing circle in our school, we were gifted feathers to use as a talking piece. And our understanding now is that that wouldn't be appropriate. And therefore that feather has been retired, but it feels appropriate to add it here as a symbol of when we know better, we do better. Where we are is where we are, but that's not where we should stay. And we keep adding to our learning. So thank you, people with strong arms. And if you have any questions, I think we're quite willing to take any questions. Would we all like to stand up with us here, and then we'll pass the microphone as needed. Thank you, Mr. Jacob and Bonnie.
I can start by thanking you for a fantastic presentation. You all did a very good job. I could hear everyone's voice. Oh, Sheriff Logan. I could hear everyone's voice loudly and clearly. And I did tell that you spent a lot of time preparing for this presentation. So thank you very much for that. And I'm going to turn it over to anyone to ask questions right now. Paul, go ahead. I can see you have a question.
Well, I just wanted to start by saying I'm just so impressed with your presentation because it seems to me that the things that you learned, the learning was really, really big because you took something that existed, you studied it, you learned some new things and you made changes to it. And I just think that's a really beautiful way to do this kind of a project, and you've left something in your school that demonstrates the learning in a beautiful way. So thank you for that. I just ask maybe let's see, who will I maybe is it Lola?
Lola?
Just tell us maybe one key thing that you think you'll always remember from this project.
Well, maybe I'll always remember that the paddles were really important to the Squamish Nation.
Maybe everyone could answer that question. Just what's one thing that
What's
you'll
one?
always remember from this project?
I think, well, can I share when we first started this project, the blanket was in.
The blanket was in the hallway and we all trooped down and without knowing anything. And Chelsea became our expert because Chelsea could explain the significance of the paddles and has a connection with her brother wearing the paddles on an outfit when he danced as part of the dance team. And so Chelsea was able to share and broaden something that we were curious about. And I will always remember Chelsea's contribution in that way. Did that help you remember something?
What will stick with you? Or we can't talk this. You can pass if you're feeling.
I
like
just
you
don't
need
know
time.
how to say it.
You will, we'll help you say it. What would you like to say?
Like how sad it is, like all the stuff that they like lost and how they like had to go to residential schooling.
Thank you. What's something that you'll remember, Lydia?
That hair was really important to First Nations.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing those highlights. Great work.
There any other questions? Any comments? Go ahead, Ina.
Go ahead. Okay, well, I too. One of my favorite parts about being a school trustee are these presentations. It's just so lovely. I'm going to ask a question, and if you can't answer it, I just maybe think about it, because I know I couldn't answer it, and I'm horrible at this part. But do you think there will be another quilt someday?
Like, will somebody change that quilt? Do you think they'll fix it or change it or build another one? Yeah. How would you feel about that if they changed our work? You feel good? How come? But you would feel good. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for. Oh, you have a question.
Question. Nothing tricky. So I think some beautiful things were said, and thank you so much. My heart is full. Say. And what I will ask, who was responsible, or how many people were involved just in putting the thing together? Because that's a lot of pieces, from the paddles to the pieces of all the leads to so much. So who did all that work putting it together? Okay, well, I would like to raise my hands to Ms. Doherty and for all the adults, and I'm sure families helped as well, that helped you in this beautiful work too. So Thank you for being such wonderful educators.
Thank you. And thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you for coming.
And Paul has one last thing.
Yes, well, it has been a tradition that we have a thank you gift for students who come to present. And traditionally, this thank you gift has been the famous throughout the land School District 48 pen. It's become a collector's item, believe it or not. So we have a pen for each of you. Just give me a second here. I don't know about that, but it is a nice pen.
Really nice.
And I even have some for. This is taking longer than I thought. Doherty, and of course, our fearless blanket holders. There you go. But today we thought we found some things that we thought would be very fun to share with you. And if you would like one, please come and take one.
Now you're talking.
Because if you don't take one, I will.
It's even called Chelsea. Oh, I thought it's Chelsea, but is that how you spell your name?
And there was someone who wasn't able to be here. So Cooper gets one too. And Cooper gets a, I'll get a pen for, we'll get a pen for Cooper. Okay.
Melissa, can you
Thank
put
you.
one of yours?
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
Okay. We can take
Thank
one for
you.
Cooper. Oh, that's empty. Okay.
You should see me on the.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law. I'm trying to keep the wall, it's like, she goes up the stairs. Yeah. And it's a big, huge seat and she changes.
I'll
And
this over to two.
Really love it. You know, we love having.
Okay, we'll trade it. Okay, all right, well, that will be a really tough act to follow. I have a feeling that the Worcester Secondary School 2025 Dry Grad Committee delegations request for a dry grad and your presentation plan is going to be fabulous. So go ahead and take it away. Okay.
We're actually.
We're actually from Howe Sound.
You guys are Howe Sound? Hold on. You're item B on the agenda, so I appreciate the enthusiasm.
Very enthusiastic.
Maybe we can go to, I think maybe Aaron, are you presenting on behalf? I see. Oh, yeah, that's right. You're House Sound too.
Worcester Secondary is not here yet.
Was there Christine and Tracy?
What?
Oh, all right.
Worcester Secondary is not here yet, so maybe we
Okay.
could swap, do House One Secondary first.
Okay. Well, there we go. Come back ahead. You can consider that the exercise portion of your day. Thank you. Anyhow, thank you so much for coming and welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
My name is Brenda Chelswick and I am co-chair of the HSS Grad Parent Committee with.
And I'm gonna ask you, the co-chair.
So we're here today. I think you would have received our proposal for Dry Grad 2025. So we're here to ask for your support and endorsement on this Dry Grad. So just some details about the event. It is scheduled for Saturday, June 14th, 2025. Weird to say 2025. We're going to follow the same type of schedule that we've always followed, where we have the Time to Shine event, which happens from around 3 to 5:30. And that's the chance and opportunity for parents to come see their grads in their beautiful clothing and mingle and have some pictures and some snacks. And so that will happen. And then the students will be transported to the location
location, and we have an update. Since we put this in, we've confirmed our location, and it's going to be at Capilano University in the library building on the 3rd floor. Beautiful, beautiful venue. Students are excited. It's going to give us lots of great opportunities to be up there. So that's been confirmed. They also just wanted to share with you that they do have on-campus security, and we will be using their on-campus security, and then we augment their security by bringing in additional security, but under their security folk. So that will be happening. The students will arrive, and they are transported with just what they're wearing and their phones. We do the traditional, I think it's a Thursday night after the commencement practice, where we do the bag check, where they can bring their bags with their extra clothing, comfy shoes for the girls, lipstick, whatever they need. So that will be in that bag check, which will be run by parents on the Thursday night. And then the students will come just as they are with their beautiful clothes and their phones. They will be transported to, or dropped off. That's to be confirmed, whether we're going to have a bus from Howe Sound or whether they'll be dropped off, because we're going to be doing the Time to Shine at Capilano, to be confirmed. But they'll be dropped off in security, and they will come in and they will have their full evening. And they're just picking a theme right now, but they will have the typical appetizers, the dinner, dancing, entertainment, crafts. We've really making sure we're thinking about all the different activities and things that different kids like, and give opportunities for quiet rooms, places where they can have low stimulation, all those things. So they'll do all those things, and then there'll be prizes, you know, all the usual, and then they'll be picked up by a designated guardian at around 12, but sometime between 12 to 12:30, and only signed out to that designated guardian. So, anything else you want to add, Ashley?
I think so. Yeah, it was just exciting that we finally picked a venue that seemed to work for the size of the class this year, since it'll be a little bit bigger than last year's.
And we are already talking up. We've got quite a good committee, and we are have a volunteer coordinator. So we're making sure we're going to have lots of parent volunteers for all of the events, so we can make sure the students are safe and cared for and secure.
Exit doors.
Yeah. This is my third go round as prom chair or dry grad chair. So including one during COVID. So been around the block.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for, I think this might be your first go round.
My second.
Oh, second. And then, well, thank you.
Last year, so.
Thank you for repeat performance. I know it's a really big job as a parent volunteer to coordinate this. I'm wondering how much input you have from the students. Are you getting good uptake, and are they enthusiastic? And
Students have created their own student committee, and I think they've got about
50 people is what I heard.
huge. So, which is kind of nice. Last year, I think there was only about 20 or 25 students that joined the grad committee, so they've got a fairly good round.
They even have quite a few males they're representing. So they have, that's really great. And they did have their first fundraiser last week. That was Global Flavors of the Harvest. And it was really well attended. It was really well done. They really were so professional and organized. They did a really great job. So that was the first of a few fundraisers, I believe.
fantastic. Are there any other questions?
I think it sounds great.
I think I'll just share from a staff perspective. Thank you for putting together such a comprehensive package. And again, we know you've done the work before. So from a staff perspective, we have no concerns. You did a fantastic job, and we have full confidence that it's going to be a roaring success. And congrats on the using the new campus. I'm very curious how that works. That could be a fantastic thing for the future. What a wonderful location.
Yeah,
well,
we are running out of space with the grad classes here, so it's great to have a new venue.
It gets tricky as the numbers get larger. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. as per our policies, we are happy to hear the presentation. We'll take all the information into consideration, do a deliberation, and someone will call Chris. Someone from our staff will get back to you, maybe Danielle or Chris will get back to you soon with our decision on your plan.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I see the principal is
Oh,
coming
yes.
to share, so thanks for being,
Yes.
we're very appreciate that. And we'll try to get back to you as soon as
Accept the
possible
flag?
because we know you're raring to go.
Raring to
So
go.
thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you very much.
Fair amount of teddy bears.
Okay. Oh, and if you just hold on for one moment, as I'm stepping in as I'm the vice chair, and so I'm not perfectly aligned with all of our procedures. We have a little bit of a debate of whether we need a motion for you right now or not. So give us like 10 seconds.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I just thought we did at the end to let them go in
Yeah.
case there were some issues, we would follow up with them, but I think given that we're seem to be happy, I think we can go ahead.
All right. Should we do a motion right now then?
Like,
Okay. All right. I see.
That the Board of Education approve How Sound Secondary School's dry grad plan as presented, contingent on the final approval by the district and school staff.
Okay, thank you for that, Lisa. Is there a seconder for that motion? April, thank you very much. Any further discussion? I think I just have one question. I just want to make sure that there's lots of coordination between the parent committee and the administration at the school. Yes? Yep. Okay, fantastic. I can see Erin nodding. Also, okay,
Lots of
I
conversation.
figured as much. Lovely. Well, with that, any other questions, any discussion from people online? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you so much. And
Thank you very much for your time.
glitch there in process. Okay, lovely. Thanks for your presentation.
thank you.
Best of luck with your event. I'm sure it'll be fantastic. Bye, Erin.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Erin.
joining us. All right, now that brings us to the Whistler Secondary School Dry Grad Committee. I can see. Who do I see?
Christine, she's right there.
Oh, Christine, hi, I see you.
Hi.
I can barely read because I didn't bring an extra pair of glasses. Why don't you, oh, and there's Annalisa. Okay, lovely. Why don't you go ahead and give us your presentation?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Annalisa, for joining. And I'm Christine Zook. I'm a parent of a grade 12 student at Whistler Secondary School, and myself and Tracy Higgs are the two of the co-leads. And I will admit, I think our parent group initially in September was a little slow getting going. And then John graciously and patiently sort of said, okay, parents, we need to get going. And on our initial meeting, Annalisa was there. We had a large group of parents. I was impressed how many came out, and then things just sort of took off from there, which was great. And within a matter of, I think, a week, we had a venue booked, and actually we changed the date from the traditional dates that Worcester has used in the past, which again, thanking Worcester for secondary and the administration for being flexible with that. The reason we changed the date from a week earlier in June, when the dry grad has typically happened around the 12th, was the venue of choice by students and the parent group that was quickly put together. The parent grad committee was to use the venue that was used last year and in previous years, to follow with that similar plan, which is the Fairmont, and to use the terrace of the Fairmont. So that's what was used last year and a few years prior to that, with great success and without issue. And we have two of our parents that work at the Fairmont, so also beneficial to have those people there on site and to help with us. So we are following the same plan that was used last year, and myself being a grade 11 parent, and many of the parents who are on the grad committee, I would think almost all of them volunteered in some capacity last year with the grad committee as grade 11 parents. So myself, I was part of the promenade group. And then majority of the parents who are on the grad committee were part of the dry grad actual event at the Fairmont last year. So we are feeling quite familiar with what needs to happen this year. Of course, we have a large document that we're following based on what happened last year. And then we reworked what we needed to do based on numbers. The numbers are a little bit different this year. We actually have a larger student body this year, or graduating class. So other than that, I can go through. We're looking at Thursday, the 19th. So as I said, a week later than what we've done in the past. Commencement is obviously the 21st on the Saturday, but the dry grad is going to be then at the Fairmont. It begins with a promenade, which is on this down close to the village. And at that point, the grads come in, check in. We will be using Eventbrite. So they must buy their tickets prior to the event. As with the guests, they must show the ticket. Last year, we had a sign-in system, which worked, but was a little loose at times. So we're trying to tighten up using Eventbrite this year. And they must present a ticket. And at that point, they must give in or hand in any bags, so they cannot carry anything with them starting out of the promenade, so hopefully reducing any risk of them intaking anything. And they go with the promenade or are introduced by administration and then walk with their date if they so choose, and then continue to the promenade. Parents are watching, and then they go in to the Fairmont, make their way to the Fairmont, go in, and then go through another check process at that point. And then parents, having been there last year, we are, along with security, searching the premises and ensuring that that's sort of in a secure location, or that's location secured. And then they check in and then go up to the terrace. And then that's more or less a lockdown at that point. And they have to, when they leave, they cannot leave the premises. If they leave, there's not a return. And at the end of the night, they have to be picked up by their registered person who's picking them up. And then we have security there, parents, the hotel staff, and then other volunteers. Last year we had RCMP volunteering. We had the fire department volunteering. We had quite a contingent, and we will go with a similar contingent this year. Annalisa, did I miss anything?
Nope, that sounds great. Thanks, Christine.
And then as far as the fundraising, that's already started. We had the haunted house, and what's been interesting this year is a number of the kids are actually selecting their capstone projects to as part of these volunteer events. So we had one of our students, grade 12 students, picking a capstone to run the haunted house. So it ran, my understanding, Annalisa, I didn't go, but I understand it went quite well. And it was a good fundraiser. Our next one is the Poinsettia plant sale. We don't have a student running that one, unfortunately, but the students are involved. And we have a student group that's meeting regularly with John. And we have we have a student key person that's working with our group, our parent group. And it's actually the son of Tracy Higgs, who's our co-lead with the group. So a lot of communications already been happening. Tracy and I are in regular conversation with John and Annalisa. So I feel like the communication has been quite strong so far. And our parent that is agreed to be the key person for the dry grad event is actually an event planner in Whistler. So I'm feeling confident at this point with our plan.
Right. Thank you very much.
And excited. And excited.
And excited. Good. Good. Thank you very much for your presentation. And I see that Rachel, who's joining us online, she has her hand up. So Rachel, please go ahead with your question or comment.
Thank you. I'm just curious because the Woodlands Terrace, that's going to be locked down, but there's no bathrooms up there. So what's the plan for the bathrooms?
They do it. You're right. They do go down to the washrooms. They come down through, and we have people upstairs, and then we have people at the bottom, and the washrooms that they have access to are in a cordoned off sort of area that we have parents going towards, and then we'll be monitoring the washrooms. That's what we did last time. And they can't carry anything with them. So if they should not have anything, they shouldn't have access to anything. They haven't been able to go in with anything. And the area upstairs is being locked down, then going to the washroom. And then we searched the washroom. Last time we were looking in plants even. Like we were sort of searching the whole area for anything. We were pulling up cushions and we did everything we could to ensure there was nothing that they could have access to anywhere.
Right. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, seeing no other questions, I'll just make a comment that I read through your document and I thought it was quite thorough. I can see it's a document that's been built on year after year after year, which is fantastic because of course we can always learn from any mistakes that maybe happened in the past. So I think that makes your proposal even stronger. So at this point, maybe we'll call again for a motion to approve your dry grad plan, contingent on final approval by the district. So we'll just wait for, oh, there it is. Archie, who's our admin assistant, has it popped up already. Is there someone prepared to make that motion?
Yeah, I can. That the Board of Education approve Whistler Secondary School dry grad plan as presented, contingent on the final approval by district and school staff.
Thank you. And is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Melissa. Any other comments or questions?
I have no doubt that's going to be a success. I just want to again share my gratitude to the parents, both schools, but Whistler, since you're here. Ever since we started ensuring that was processed for dry grad, they really never let us down and just improve year after year. So thank you. I recognize the tremendous amount of work that goes not just the planning, but obviously the night of. So really my appreciation to the parents for all your hard work and coming before the board and staff to present. We really do appreciate it. And we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for the time. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well said, Chris. Thank you. All in favor then? All right. Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion is carried. Thank you so much. And good luck with all of your plans. I'm sure you're going to create a wonderful night for the students.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to go.
Appreciate that. And have a good rest of your meeting. Good night.
Good night. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone, for all of that. We had three excellent presentations this evening. That brings us to our board committees. And the committee of the whole, we met today. 1 second. We had a few items on our agenda. We did an update to our trustee calendar. Coming up soon is the BCSDA Trustee Academy. Several of us will be attending that. We also were reminded about ongoing school learning plans. We have a few more schools presenting their plans on November the 27th. I'd like to thank Melissa Ronan for attending the BCSDA Provincial Council this past month. In October, thank you. And an excellent report that she gave to us. If you're interested, you can, of course, check that out on our recorded committee meeting that happened earlier today. We had a short discussion about things that are happening within the South Coast branch, which is ourselves and the 2 school districts on the Sunshine Coast. We come together as one group a few times a year to do some advocacy. And so there's some process happening around that. We had an excellent update on career life education, career life connections from Superintendent Nicholson. And we have plans to meet with our new incoming MLA, Jeremy Ballarat, and also some information on the potential to create some drums for the trustees. And also a little bit of advocacy work took place to ensure some enhanced safety and parking around Squamish Elementary School. So that is a brief update on what was discussed at our committee of the whole meeting. And that brings us to a recommendation coming from that meeting. Is there anyone prepared to make that recommendation?
The minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held on October 9th, 2024 be accepted.
Thank you. Melissa, thank you for that. Is there someone to second? Thank you, Lisa. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And any opposed? That's carried. The policy committee met today as well, a little bit earlier. We discussed, one moment while it's popping up so I have the correct information. We discussed our policy review schedule and really no changes to that at this time. We also had a discussion about policy 105, safe, orderly, and healthy schools and sites, as well as policy 106, navigating district concerns. There was a little bit of conversation around those, just some housekeeping, rewording for clarity, and in the case of policy 105, a little bit of an addition on how the public could report any concerns that they have regarding orderly and healthy schools and sites. Also, a conversation around trustee remuneration and thinking about ways that we can keep our policy up to date with the changing ways in which work is done, was the general gist of the conversation. And the trustees have asked that our staff members take some time to review the trustee remuneration, and we'll have a further discussion on that next month. And I think that sums it up. If anyone has anything they'd like to add, please feel free to jump in. All right, seeing nothing, where there is a recommendation.
That the minutes of the policy committee meeting held on October 9th, 2024 be adopted.
Thank you, April. And a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Lisa. All in favor? And any opposed? Seeing none, that is also carried. Finally, our finance committee met earlier today as well. And just to briefly go over our discussions, we had presentation of the quarterly financial report, as well as a presentation on school funding allocation and an update on the budget survey, which is what our Secretary Treasurer Danielle spoke to earlier, that this is a survey that's open to all people in the district. And we would really encourage you to go to our website and fill in that survey. The information that you provide is taken into consideration as we decide how best to allocate the funds that we have to best serve our students. And that is the Finance Committee meeting. If anyone has anything they'd like to add, please feel free to jump in. Otherwise, let's go ahead with the recommendation.
That the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting held on October 9th, 2024 be accepted.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Melissa. Oh, and Rachel, I saw you too. Thank you. Any comments? All in favor of that motion? And any opposed? All right, seeing no opposition, everyone seems to be in favor. That is also passed. Now that brings us to the Indigenous Education Council, and Rachel, your name is beside there. Is there anything that you'd like to report out at this time?
No, we haven't had a meeting. So there's
Okay,
nothing to report.
thank you. Yes, it's my understanding that there's some work being done
On the terms of reference.
Yeah.
Will happen first before the first meeting.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, working, as Chris said, terms of reference, and then the first meeting will come out of that. So I'm glad to see that that good work is being done. It's always important to have nice firm terms of reference before you move forward. So thank you. That brings us to item E, Public Relations, Community Engagement and Communications Committee. And maybe Rachel, you had your chance. And so I'll let Celeste have a chance to speak to this one first, as both of your names are there.
Yeah, no, we haven't met since we last reported out, Cynthia.
Okay, terrific. We'll look forward to information when information is available. Lovely. That brings us down to our general items. We're in section 8 in case you're following along at home. And item B are our information updates. We'll begin with the 701 update, inclusive education and Indigenous education. And I'll turn that over to Assistant Secretary Clark. Or
actually, sorry, just to interject, I wanted to share that the Director of Instruction for Inclusive Education, Philip, is home with sick kids.
Oh,
so I will do his presentation, but I recognize that our Director of Indigenous Education, Colleen Hanna, has been waiting patiently on the line. So I'm going to ask her to share first about our numbers of students of Indigenous ancestry, so that we can let her go. And I will follow up with the inclusive education.
Terrific. Thank you, Chris. You did tell me that Paul was sick and I forgot. So thank you for that. Colleen, please go ahead. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to tell us.
All right. I'm not sure if Archie is going to be putting up there she is. Didn't even have to putting up the slides. So for this school year, just to sort of explain 1701, and this is obviously for our supplemental funding, the 1701 count. And we have self-identified it's called self-identified Aboriginal students. We obviously call our students Indigenous students. And of that, from the 1701 extract this year, we actually had 571 students self-identified as having Indigenous ancestry. However, we don't get funded for every self-identified Indigenous student. What we get funded for are for the students whose families have been consulted in accordance to the audit criteria and would like to participate in our program. So some don't participate because they may be in elite sports, they're just not around enough. There's a whole variety of reasons, but we were funded this year for 547 Indigenous students, and the students are funded at a rate of $1,710 per head count. So this is a little different than by FTE because the number would be much higher. But it's done by head count. So if a student is on a part-time program, we still get the full funding for that as a school district. I also just added in here, and this is something that Superintendent Nicholson will be going over, which is the number of ELL students in our school district. However, I just wanted to point out that Indigenous students through the English as a Second Dialect section of English language learners can have Indigenous students identified as ELL students. And we had 38 Indigenous students identified this year, and they are funded also at a rate of $1,735 per head count. And so again, that would be additional supplemental funding for that. We also split our district into two when it comes to budgeting purposes, and we have the students in the south are counted for the south budget and students for the north in the north budget. And we had 281 in the south, 266 in the north. And I just also wanted to point out that we have 182 students living in community, so that they live on one of our reserves in either the south or the north, which is a large percentage of our Indigenous students living in community. Do you want to go to the next slide there, Archie? And I also just wanted to just sort of raise the profile a little bit of our Indigenous students who also are part of our inclusive education population. So while our Indigenous students make up 11% of our total student population, they actually make up 20% of the inclusive education population. So they're identified with one or more designation. And I just put the numbers here for 2024. I don't have the numbers for 2023. I did ask that of Director of Instruction Clark last year, actually at our presentation. I said, and how many are Indigenous students? So this year I thought I would present that information so that everyone could see. This is not a new trend. This is something that is seen province-wide, every school district. I don't think I've seen a school district where there is not a large percentage of the Indigenous students making up a larger percentage in the inclusive education population. But I just wanted to highlight that so that people were aware. And that's all I have.
Hey, well, thank you very much for that, Colleen. Are there questions or comments? Go ahead,
I
please.
just want to thank Colleen for his presentation and thank you for pointing that out. I think it's very important. We just had a beautiful presentation from Violet Cliff Elementary, and we know from time to time, public, other folks say, why are we still talking about truth and reconciliation? And I think for education, we have an example right there where we have this over representation. And so, you know, we know we're doing well when we have proportional representation. If we have 11% of students who identify as Indigenous, then we should have 11% or less of students represented in other categories such as inclusive education. So I just really appreciate that being surfaced. It's something that we need to continue to talk about. And it's why as we move forward in the creation of the next strategic plan, I know that Indigenous education and truth and reconciliation will continue to be a foundational piece of the work moving forward. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Okay, seeing none, Colleen, I also would like to thank you for that presentation. It is always interesting to look at the data that we have in our schools. I firmly believe that data is the solid foundation upon which we can make good decisions moving forward. So thank you for having that be made available to all of us. I really appreciate the time it took to gather that together.
Not a problem. Always happy to share.
Thank you.
All right, Lim Lim.
Lim
Let you
Lim.
go. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Okay, I believe that.
Yep, it's me.
What's the next?
I'm gonna do my best to do Director Clark proud and go
Okay.
through the inclusive education slide deck. So I know she's gonna put that up in a second.
Great,
And I won't
thank you.
spend too much time. There's lots of information. I know this is going to be included for the public to look through. But just to back up a little bit about the 1701, there are a number of populations that we look at, as well as overall counts, of course. And so Colleen spoke to the numbers of students identified or putting forward as having Indigenous ancestry. And now we also have a number of students with ministry approved designations. You can go on to the next slide. So this is the 1701 rationale for designations. And it's that recognition that students with diverse abilities that meet certain criteria as per the Ministry of Education do generate additional funding to help them meet their educational and social needs. Next slide. There we go. Again, the definition for those students who must be provide supports are contained within the ministry's Inclusive Education Services, a manual of policies, procedures, and guidelines. Folks can click on that and read a little bit more. It's also on our website under learning services. And I think one of the things we do like to point out every single year that all the money that's generated from students identified as having, they still use the term special needs, goes to the district as a whole, because we recognize there are many students who may not yet have a designation, that still require supports. We also recognize, as you'll see a little bit later, that even the students who generate lots of additional supports don't necessarily cover all the additional costs of supporting them. And of course, we of course do that respectfully and ensure that where we need to subsidize and provide that additional support, we do. So if we move to the next slide, we will see the breakdown of the monies. And it's tricky sometimes to talk about students when we're talking about money, because of course we want to keep the human at the center of the humans we support. But this is brass tacks when it comes to providing supports for kids. So for a student who is physically dependent, that means they're unable to take care of themselves in any meaningful way. They require one-on-one supports for feeding, for use of washing facilities, etc. These are very rare in our district. There is an increase to funding this year. That's a category A, or students who are deafblind, category B. That's at about $50,730 for level 2, of which you will see the numbers in a moment. We support quite a few lovely children in the level 2 category. Funding for them has gone up to $24,070. And those designations, which again in the manual provide more information if folks are interested in terms of what does it mean to have a moderate to profound intellectual disability, physical disability, chronic health impairment, visual impairments, deaf or hard of hearing, and autism spectrum disorder. Those are level 2 categories. The level 3 category is for intensive behavior interventions or serious mental illness, which requires wraparound services, sort of those students with behavioral concerns that can be internal or external, where they require services beyond what a school district would normally provide. Increase has gone up $400 this year to $12,160. And what we'll always point out that it was a number of years ago where funding for things like learning disabilities were no longer funded as a separate category, but instead they increased the per pupil funding in the belief that by increasing funding to all students, those services would be available for students. We'll recognize too, and we've talked about this at many meetings, that we're still waiting for the final results of the ministry funding review on inclusive education. So we'll see what happens out of that. So again, it's important to share. These are the 3 categories that receive that supplemental funding for a student with a disability, as identified by the ministry. And I will also add that, of course, you can have students that can get additional funding for various categories. As Colleen alluded to, you can be a student with a disability who also happens to be Indigenous, who may also have English as a second dialect. And so the funding will go to the district to round out supports for that child. We can move to the next slide, which I recognize is very wordy. This is what I spoke to before about the basic allocation. So there's an outline of those students: mild intellectual disabilities, learning disabilities, moderate behavior support, or mental illness, and students who are gifted. Again, these monies go towards providing additional services to kids, from learning assistance to speech and language, physiotherapy services, hospital homebound services, assessment. But again, I want to recognize and thank the board for the approval of budgets that are above and beyond the money that is provided by the ministry. And again, those unfunded categories, also known as high incidence, because there's a higher level of the incidence of those categories amongst the population. Low incidence means there's a lower number of incidents of students in that category in across the population. So these are the letters corresponding to those disabilities and designations. And that's important because in the next slide, you will see our breakdown. I will mention, you saw the word masked in the last slide deck as well. That is because for any populations that are less than 10, the information is masked because we want to ensure that we're not potentially identifying students. If it says 1 or 3 or 4, sometimes folks can guess who those students are, and we have an obligation for privacy, especially when things are shared publicly. So you will note, for example, in category A, I can see 2024 should actually also say not applicable. We have no students in the category A, the highest funded category for this year. In category C, again, it is a smaller number. Category D, chronic health, that's where we see an increase. I will share that we have noted an increase in diagnoses of autism. And that's where we see quite a large increase. You'll see more of that a little bit later when we go into detail. But you can see from 2017 to 2024, if you go right down to your school totals, you will note that in a 7 or 8 year period, we have almost doubled. And I want to recognize the efforts of the learning services staff and outside folks also, of course, who have helped in ensuring identification, because we recognize there can be wait lists and that can be tricky. But I'll point out that the highest funded categories of A, C, D, E, F, and G all actually require medical diagnoses. And so we rely on the cooperation and collaboration together with the medical and health community for those. So definitely an increase in our district. I know the board will have an opportunity to learn about our EAs in an upcoming session, and that's just one very important integral part of the supports that we offer. But again, you will see year to year also an increase in the staff supporting our students as well. And for the public's knowledge, I will also remind everyone that we are also beholden to ensure specific ratios for supports for students based on population, where we ensure that we meet our responsibilities to hire the right number of teachers with special education background, counselors, ELL teachers, etc. And happy to report that we always meet and often exceed those ratios in our schools. And I think, is there one more slide? I don't remember now. Was that's it? Okay, there we go. We were going to speak to ELL, and again, in all the districts across the province, ELL is based on a specific number that generates supports. And we also note that unlike our other categories, ELL has remained relatively stable with some peaks and valleys along the way, but we aren't seeing the same numbers. And yet we know that across the province, we are welcoming wonderful new students from all over the world. And we're just not seeing them in the same numbers as many other parts of the province at this point in time. So.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you for that report, Chris. I feel that it's good to see the number of students who are receiving support for various needs increasing. I think that we can always meet the needs of our students best when we have a good idea of what those needs are. So I'm happy to see that it looks like people are getting assessments done and that process is moving along well.
Well, I think, we're doing our best. I will absolutely acknowledge that, like many districts, we are having some challenges at times in terms of ensuring that when we have postings for EAs and we have postings for support services, that we're able to hire the most effective people that we can. And so I will continue to ask folks to, if they know folks that are interested in joining our district, to please consider it. We're always hiring for EAs especially. And I will recognize that While I believe through the efforts of HR, we're doing a lot better with our TOCs to start the year. We still recognize that there are times when we don't have all TOCs for all classes, in which case our wonderful support services teachers do help to fill the gap, because we know the most effective teacher is the one that's in front of kids in the classroom. So just to acknowledge that, in case we get some feedback from some folks watching, I wanted to acknowledge that while this is the overview, we still have some challenges ahead, and we'll continue to do our best to provide the very best services for our kids.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, that brings us to the next item on our agenda, and that is the school leadership series, and Assistant Superintendent Lorette will be speaking to that topic.
Hey, thank you. So I just wanted to bring to the attention of the board a really great program or professional learning series that we put together this year. So we've been meaning to do this for a few years, and I'm really happy that we were able to organize it. Essentially, what we've done is we've put out an invitation to any teacher who might be interested in pursuing a career in formal school leadership. In other words, becoming a vice principal or a principal. And we found that we've talked about challenges over the last number of years with teacher recruitment, and we found that there are similar, not quite the same, but there are similar challenges in recruitment in many different areas in public education, and certainly that includes leadership positions as well. We continue to have very high quality applicants, but the number has sort of applicants, they have sort of declined over the years. We also have noted that we have really great candidates that often come from our own school district when we post leadership positions. And so we thought it would be a good idea to try to support and encourage teachers who may be interested in pursuing leadership to have an opportunity to take part in a series for professional learning in that area. So we put out the invitation. We have planned a series of 3 sessions. I am working with Director of Instruction Colleen Hanna, who was with us just earlier on this series. We're co-presenting. We've had a response from 10 teachers from across the district who sort of put their hand up and say, "Yeah, I would really like to take part in this series." We had our first series session on November 5th in Whistler, and our next session will be on November 25th, and then it'll be followed by our final session in February. And so what we've done is we're focusing on things like identifying sort of what is your identity as a leader, focusing on the question, what is leadership? We're looking at the skills required to be successful in the role. What does the job look like on a day-to-day basis? And also helping folks to start preparing and thinking about kinds of learning opportunities that they may want to pursue, prepare themselves for a career in leadership. And also talking a little bit about the interview process and what that involves and prepare for that. So we just wanted to share that program. We're super excited about it. We're really pleased with how it's going. We had an excellent first session. The participants were really enthusiastic and engaged and very positive. And I would say we're very optimistic about the future of leadership in our school district. So that's our school leadership program.
Thank you, Paul. I was really looking forward to this presentation. I was intrigued when I saw it on our agenda, and I'm really pleased with everything that I've heard. It sounds like kind of succession planning. And I think that's a really important thing for a school district to do. I'm not going to say anything else right now. I'd like to open it up to comments from others. If anyone has anything they'd like to say at this time.
I think that sounds really interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's a great idea.
Thanks. And is it safe to say that you're developing this program? Well, thank you for all the work and the time that you're putting into doing that, because I'm sure that's not a small task to develop something from scratch like that. So thank you for that. And just the idea to do it in the first place. Fantastic. Really great. So we're so lucky to have people in our district who are so forward thinking. Lovely. That brings us to our attachments, which are the media reports and the field trips. I just wanted to make one quick comment when I was looking through those this month. The field trips look fantastic. They always do, but there was one that particularly jumped out, and that was the opportunity that the students in the outdoor education program at Howe Sound are receiving, which is an opportunity to do their level 1 ski and snowboard instructors certificate. It very well may have happened before. I wouldn't be surprised, but for some reason, this one, it jumped out at me when I looked this time round. So just a fantastic opportunity for our students to have an opportunity to have real life experiences that result in a real life qualification. So I really compliment the people who are creating these opportunities for our students. It's fantastic. All right. We have no correspondence at this time, nor discussion items. So that brings us to policy motions. And our first is what I had spoken to during our piece of the agenda a little bit earlier on when we spoke about what happened in the policy meeting earlier today, committee meeting. And from that, we decided that we would bring our policy 105, safe and orderly and healthy schools and sites into our public meeting and have a recommendation for that policy. Superintendent Nicholson, do you feel there's a need to speak to that additionally at this time, or it was all covered during our committee meeting?
Yeah, I believe it was covered. I just, again, appreciate the comments, appreciate the suggestions from Trustee Bickford. I think it helped makes it stronger, and I appreciate everyone's support of me going through and always making changes, trying to make things a little bit clearer. But I feel that the clearer policies can be to the public. We're the better for that, because at the end of the day, the policies are for the public to be aware of what the board stands for and how to find the information they need.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you, everyone, for their input.
Thank you. Is there someone prepared to make that recommendation?
That the Board of Education approves amended policy 105, safe, orderly, and healthy schools and sites with changes as discussed.
Thank you, Melissa, and seconded by April. Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? And any opposed? Right, seeing none, that is carried. That brings us to policy 106, navigating district concerns. Again, I'll turn to our superintendent.
Same.
I figured as much, but I wanted to give you the opportunity just in case. All right, is there someone prepared to make that recommendation?
That the Board of Education approves amended policy 106, navigating district concerns with changes as discussed.
Thank you, Melissa. And is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Lisa. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask for all of those in favor. Thank you, and that would be none opposed, and that is also carried. Thank you, everyone, for the work on those two policies. As Chris stated, it is fantastic that we can update these and make them clear and very straightforward for everyone involved, and especially our public. So that brings us to items E, F, and G. There is nothing there, which brings us to our final item on the agenda, which is questions of clarification from the public. And so we do have one member of the public, and I'll welcome you to take a mic, and thank you so much.
My name is Paul Suga, and I have a question about the policies, which overall sound great. But I also have a concern. While most students come from great, fantastic families with also great, fantastic values, I've heard something that I think is quite disturbing. I don't know if you've heard it. Grade 10 English class at House Sound. Apparently, there's a lot of very disrespectful behavior in the class with the teacher present. They use a lot of foul language, 4-letter words, flying around like, all the teacher does is smile. That's what I heard. So I think that's a valid reason to look into the policies and make sure that respect is a big part of it. Okay, thank you for listening.
Okay.
Yeah, appreciate that, sir. And I would ask if you have any knowledge of an incident that you've heard it from a parent, especially or from a student in that class, that our policy would be please communicate with the teacher, and if they need some support, to the principal, and then we have a policy for following up on that, because I agree with you. We want to ensure that we're making safe, inclusive spaces for everyone, and that includes our staff and our teachers. So
the problem with that is that no student at that level would like to stay out as I arrive at the class out. Everybody needs that. But it is disturbing nevertheless. Okay, so yeah, do you get general feedback from the classrooms? I have no proof, and I don't know the name of the teacher. I certainly, if I would hear more of it with myself, that's one audience.
Yeah,
I wanted to bring it to your attention, and apparently this is not a one-time occasion. It happens all the time.
no, I do appreciate you bringing it up, and your points are valid if that's what you've heard, and we can certainly follow up. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions that have come in online?
No, there's not.
Okay, seeing that there are no questions online, and seeing that we have attended to all of the items that are on our agenda this evening, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and thank you for coming and joining us. It was lovely to have so many people in our audience today. I think I counted 18 people. So that was really nice to have that participation, and it was especially nice to have the presentations of the students. So I hope everyone enjoys the remainder of their evening, and we will sign off for now.